In the opening scene, Yuk Xuan recalls the moments she spent with her boyfriend, Lai Tzu-wai, before his untimely passing years ago. She misses every moment they spend together. The morning brings with it light and rain as the day breaks. Yuk Xuan wakes up reminiscing on the time they spent together as college students at the other end of town where Lai Tzu-wai is. He also wakes up recalling the same moments as Yuk Xuan. He picks up his guitar and begins to play a tune when his friend and high school classmate, Mo Junji, comes complaining that Tzu-wai has not been taking his calls. He requests to see the new design for the ice shop, which he promises to show him. Tzu-wai casually shows him a sketch he made and inquires about Chen Yunru. That same rainy morning, Yuk Xuan stops at the tea shop where she works with her friend. They are going about their regular activities when a song starts playing on the radio, and she recalls hearing the same song in her dream where she was humming to the song. Kanpu wonders how she can sing the song so well when she has never heard it before. She explains that she kept hearing the song in her dream, and what's more is that there was this guy in her dream who was listening to the song with her. She doesn't know him, but in her dream, it seems like they've known each other for a long time, and they went on romantic outings together. Kanpu makes jest at her friend, whom she thinks had a wet dream and can't stop fantasizing about the guy in her dreams. Young Xuan starts arguing with her friend that her experience isn't a result of a wet dream. Their voices get really loud until they get interrupted by a customer. Young Xuan turns in shock only to realize that the guy in her dream is presently in their tea shop. The both of them get caught staring at each other longer than they should, causing Kanpu to wonder what's happening. Tzu-wai disrupts the awkward silence and requests for a bubble tea. The lady before him looks like his high school classmate next door, so he has to ask if she has an older sister or something. After getting his order, Tzu-wai lurks around for some minutes smiling to himself. Subsequently, he comes around to purchase tea just so he can have a glimpse of Yuk Xuan's face. Kanpu has become used to his frequent visits to their store, making the same order every day. So, whenever she sees him, she quickly calls Yuk Xuan to take his order. Yuk Xuan, who is quite used to having him around at a particular time, prepares his order ahead of time. But on this day, he is a bit late, so the ice is melted. Tzu-wai smiles and requests to treat her to a late-night snack later. Yuk Xuan simply smiles in response and watches as he takes his leave. As usual, Kanpu starts making fun of her friend, who looks like she's falling in love. Later in the evening, they meet up at a restaurant, and while eating they chat about various things. Tzu-wai recalls when he bought Taiwanese churros. There was this little girl near him who looked like she wanted to eat the churros, and he later found out that she had separated from her family. He wanted to call the police, but she refused, so he had to take her with him to find her family. Yuk Xuan stares at him in awe because the little girl is her. She shows him her little self, and he becomes convinced that she truly is the one. The following day, Tzu-wai takes her to see his artwork on display in a gallery. The duo moves from the regular customer and seller relationship as they embark on several tours to amusing places. They become close friends and eventually start nursing some emotions towards each other. On a cool evening, Tzu-wai takes Yuk Xuan to a mountaintop where they can conveniently see the New Year's Eve fireworks, which will be on display soon. He decorates the place with lights just to impress her. On arrival, she is super excited to see the view she will be getting. He sees how excited she is and decides to confess his feelings towards her, but Young Xuan tells him not to say anything until later. A few minutes later asks him to go ahead with what he wants to say. She has to shush him earlier because it's her first New Year's Eve with her boyfriend, and she doesn't want to miss any moment of fun. For a moment, Tzu-wai is lost hearing her mention her boyfriend. His hopes get dashed at the thought of her being with someone else all this while. He feels her tugging at his little finger, and as he looks down, his face lights up with a smile seeing how she has locked her fingers around his. Tzu-wai gradually moves his head towards hers as he plants a kiss on her lip. They spend the rest of the evening having as much fun as possible. The new year arrives, and the lovebirds decide to move in together. They get an apartment and arrange the house to meet their taste. Tzu-wai takes Young Xuan on a date with his friend Junji, who is surprised to see the striking resemblance with Chen Yunru. He questions Tzu-wai about the possibility of Young Xuan being her younger sister, or probably a relative. Tzu-wai whispers to Junji that Young Xuan has an entirely different temperament from Chen Yunru despite their striking resemblance. Young Xuan pinches him, and he quickly apologizes, introducing the both of them to each other. He reveals to her that she does look like someone they both know, which is why they were whispering. Junji shows her a picture of their friend, while Tzu-wai names the difference in their personalities and physical features. The next day, Yuk Xuan wakes up to find her lover working overnight. He has urgent work, and he needs to finish up the painting soon. She walks over and clings to him, revealing that she had a nightmare where he disappeared. Sue understands that she might be worrying over the nightmare, so he makes her a pinky promise that he's not going to leave her all by herself. 3 years pass by, and the lovebirds are still together. Yuk Shuen wakes up in a bad mood, and her boyfriend doesn't have a new joke to help her mood. She gets to work early enough to make her quarterly customer analysis report for Guangxi Technology. She makes her presentation before her immediate boss Lisa and Evangelina, who are quite impressed with her recommendations. Later in the evening, she goes on a date with her boyfriend, but her mood is quite different from her usual cheerful self. Sue Y tries to lighten the mood when she drops the news of her transfer to Shanghai, where she will have to work for 2 years. Sue Y is taken by surprise and slightly unhappy, but he quickly makes a toast to her. He congratulates her and assures her that she has his full support no matter the decision she makes. They get back home later at night, and Sue Y is doing some work while young Xuan sits outside. She sends him a text over the phone confessing that she will miss him, and he responds almost immediately. He gets up to play that one song that always reminds him of her because it helped him find her years ago. The couple stares at each other with their minds full of many thoughts. Young Xuan arrives at the office in Shanghai, and she is shown around by a colleague whom Lisa assigned to help her around. She gets taken to the planning department where she will be working as the new product manager. Shortly, the general manager Yang approaches them, and they get introduced to each other. Young Xuan takes a picture of her office desk and sends it to Tsu Y. They spend the day updating each other with the activities of the day until Yang, who's walking by, comes to interrupt Yuk Xuan's chat. He suspects she must be checking in on her boyfriend, as he has also been in that long-distance relationship situation with his wife. He shares how he met his wife when he went to Taipei in 2001 amid the work transfers. Young Xuan thinks his coincidental love story is beautiful, although different from hers. They continue chatting as they walk until they get to the party where their other colleagues are already waiting. The event starts and Yuk Xuan enjoys every bit of it, from singing to drinking and taking photos. When she gets back home, Young Xuan puts a video call through to her boyfriend. They are separated by different time zones. Tsu Y sends a message telling her how much he misses her already, and he pleads with her to hold on and wait for him. The story makes a twist as she cries her eyes out reading through her boyfriend and her chats. She recalls both of them having an accident at a construction site, and he never recovered from the accident while she did. Lisa encourages her to let go of the past as he might not have survived the incident, but she cries at everything that reminds her of her lover. She recalls pieces of her memory from when Sue Y was describing the facials of Chen Yunru. She quickly runs to the mirror to confirm if there is a mole on her face. She believes she is Chen Yunru because there is no mole on her face, but then her identity still confuses her, especially with the flashes in her memory and her numerous dreams. She quickly picks up her phone to check through the previous chat, and surprisingly the dates correspond to her phone's date. She figures out that if the whole thing isn't a dream, she must have returned to the time before the accident took place. With a large smile on her face, she hurries out to an address. After ringing the bell several times, her heart starts racing as she expects to see who will walk through the gate. Seeing Tsu Y walk out of the building causes Chen Yunru's memories to flood back. She runs to hug him and cries uncontrollably until Yuk Xuan and Junji walk towards them, wondering what's going on. Later they settle in, and Chen Yunru reveals that Tsu Y will perish on July 10th and Young Xuan will fall off as well. They try to make sense of her story, but Junji and Tsu Y can't help but get more confused, as one of the two look-alike ladies explains her identity as the Yuk Xuan who is clueless from 2014 and the other Young Xuan from 2017 who has gone through a lot. Chen Yunru is confused as she doesn't understand why she's having Chen Yunru's memories, but she's certain that she is Young Xuan. She recounts incidents from their first date and many other things to get Tsu Y to believe that she's the real Young Xuan, but he seems to be confused. Out of frustration, she walks over to the lady the others know as Yuk Xuan and pleads with her not to let Tsu Y perish, because only she knows how sad she will be after he is gone, especially when she goes back to the empty house. As she recalls the sad days she spent crying because her lover was no more, Chen Yunru pleads with all of them to believe her. Later in the evening, Chen Yunru walks around the house, staring at the portraits made by Tsu Y, who feels like she's distracting him from working. She finds a seat, but there seems to be a certain kind of awkwardness all over the place. She excuses herself to go grab some late-night snacks. A few minutes later, Junji steps outside the house and thinks back on the first day he saw Young Xuan. She suddenly appears out of nowhere, wondering why he's outside. Young Xuan invites him inside to have some of the snacks she got. They get back inside to find the lady, claiming she's Young Xuan sleeping and Su Wai preparing to leave. They talk in low whispers before he informs them that he will be leaving, and he doesn't want her to wake up or disturb him. The following morning, Chen Yunru begins her day monitoring him all over the place, from work to when he leaves to pick up Young Xuan. Su watches her follow him around in annoyance as he tries to avoid her by all possible means. On the second day, he can't take it anymore. He walks up to her waiting for him outside his apartment. Chen Yunro promises to watch over him till the 10th day of July, so she informs him that she will follow him to his studio since he wants to go to work, but Su Wai refuses. He pleads with her to let Junji follow him instead, which she finally agrees to. Getting inside the house, Chen Yunro shares some meals she got with her look-alike, who suddenly inquires about the things that will happen in the future. The following day at the studio, Junji requests to see the drawing Su Wai made for his grandma's ice shop. Su Wai walks over to search for it in the storage room, as he wonders why Junji suddenly wants to see the drawing. Unbeknownst to him, his friend is up to something. As soon as he steps into the storage room, Chen Yunro appears handing a tray to Junji, who drops the tray in the room and shuts the door immediately. He suddenly realizes that he has been locked inside the storage room by his friend and the two look-alike ladies. Su Wai threatens them, but Chen Yunro insists he remains locked up all day for the fear that something might happen to him. Later, the trio eats some noodles when Young Xuan gets a text she claims is from a friend. She excuses herself to go attend to it. After she leaves, Junji asks about Chen Yunro, whose memory of the future Young Xuan has. He recalls the incidents that happened the day she was leaving for Taipei. Chen Yunro cuts in midway through the conversation because she's hearing some noises from the storage room. She quickly checks inside, but can't find Su Wai inside. Junji and her run outside in search of him. They check around them, but no sign of Su Wai. They look further until they find the building from which Chen Yunro saw him perish. They split up and both of them begin searching the structure until Chen Yunro stumbles upon Tu Lai Su Wai. In her state of confusion, the other Yu Xuan appears behind her carrying a broken piece of glass, and she comes running towards her in an attempt to stab her. She reveals that the outcome will only be different if she disappears and quickly grabs her look-alike, dragging her until they fall off the building and land lifeless on the floor, while Su Wai and his look-alike cry their eyes out. Young Xuan suddenly wakes up in her office. She is surrounded by her colleagues with worried looks on their faces. She quickly packs up and heads out of the office. She takes the next available flight back, and her first place to visit is Junji's residence. She inquires about what happened, and he explains how he watched Su Wai die before his eyes. Young Xuan walks around and sees a look-alike of Su Wai, though he looks younger. Junji explains that Su Wai's look-alike Wang Quansheng woke up in the hospital, and he was the one who told him everything about the incident. That was when he realized that Chen Yunru was right when she said Su Wai would pass away. It happens that she isn't the only one who wants to change the future, as the futureless Su Wai also wants to change it. He reveals that in Su Wai's time, she and Chen Yunru fell off the building on July 10th, but in the present which they are in now, it was she and Su Wai who fell off the building. After Su Wai lost her, he was deeply depressed, wondering why the future she mentioned then is different from what he was experiencing. So, after she left, Su Wai visited Wang at the hospital to find clues of when his future self was inside him. He shares memories of how Su Wai painfully endured her passing, and how he visited their favorite places all by himself, and even talked to an imaginary Young Xuan. The time goes back to 2014, and Wang Quansheng has memories of himself back when he was bullied by his schoolmates in high school, and the memories of Su Wai, who nurses his broken heart after the demise of his lover. He suddenly wakes up confused and not understanding what's happening to him. He walks over to the mirror in a bid to look at his reflection, and he's certain that he is indeed Wang Quansheng. He checks the time, and he realizes that he's back on July 8th, 2014. He quickly locates the house where Su Wai lives with Young Xuan, and just outside the gate, he finds Young Xuan, her look-alike, and Chen Yunru on the very same day. The future Young Xuan locates Su Wai and her look-alike. He goes back to his drawing board and tries to analyze the situation and the possibilities. He finds out that if Yunru is really the Young Xuan who's returned to 2014, then he'd be the one who dies in her time. But in his time, she's the one who dies, and if he's Wang Quansheng in the present, then the other Young Xuan he saw at the residence earlier must be Chen Yunru. On the day he was supposed to pass away, he helped Su Wai escape from the storage room Yunru had locked him in, and they both ran to the uncompleted building like it happened in Yunru's time. But instead of both ladies dying, Su-wai falls off the building with Young Xuan. Back in 2017, Wang Quansheng narrates the incident following Su-wai's passing, and how he found Junji, and then told him everything. Junji shows Young Xuan a sketch Su-wai made in 2017 indicating that they are stuck in a time loop, and he's been searching for Yunru for years, but he still can't locate her. Though he saw her a year ago in the picture of her with her friends, yet he still doesn't know where she is. He feels she might be deliberately hiding, so he passes the photograph to Young Xuan so she can have a look. Later, Young Xuan decides to go have a look at an address where she suspects Yunru to be residing. While looking through the house, a strange man grabs her, mistaking her for Yunru. She explains she's Young Xuan and not the person he's thinking to be. Minutes later, they sit down and he apologizes for the incident earlier. Mr. Young narrates how he met Yunru when he traveled to Taiwan for work purposes in 2001. He met her at a record shop he loves going to, and Yunru happened to work there. They soon became friends because they both loved music. They even met coincidentally at a concert one rainy night. They didn't know each other for too long before returning to Shanghai after completing the task in Taiwan. He left her his contact number, but she never called back, so he lost all hope of seeing her until they ran into each other once again. They spend more time with each other, and the bond between them gradually starts rekindling until he proposes marriage to her. On their wedding day, Mr. Young felt like the luckiest man in the world. After their wedding, he worked really hard to provide her with a better life, and in the process, he neglected Yunru's feelings. Unfortunately, Yunru got involved in a domestic accident. She fell down the stairs while trying to pick up her phone, which was ringing. The incident resulted in her losing their child, and Yunru couldn't handle the pain, so she went into a deep coma. Seeing her in that state makes Mr. Young regret ever coming into her life to shatter her world. One day, he was going through their things when he saw her cassette, which he had sent to Young Xuan. He takes a break from narrating his marriage ordeals and reveals that his wife had stated in her diary that she met another self whose name was Huang Young Xuan, and she had a more optimistic outlook on life. But he didn't know what his life meant until he met Young Xuan the day she arrived at their Shanghai office. Meeting her made Mr. Young realize that everything his wife wrote in her diaries was true, and that made him fall into Chen Yunru's world. He reveals that Young Xuan's memories came from the content of Chen Yunru's diaries, and she returned to the past after listening to his wife's cassette, and he made her listen to it. He pleads with her to go back to the past, if she can, so she can help save his wife. The following morning, Young Xuan wakes up again with Chen Yunru's memory in 2014, and everything plays out as usual, until she gets to meet with her look-alike when they are about to eat, and Young Xuan decides to ask her a question. Young Xuan cries her eyes out as she explains that despite coming from the future, she still can't remember details of what happened and what led to the deaths. She reads out every memory of Chen Yunru just as Mr. Yang is reading out his wife's diary to her in her state of coma. Young Xuan listens carefully to everything she says. Later, the whole scenario plays out as usual, but this time Young Xuan perishes alone and immediately lands on the ground floor. Chen Yunru, who is in a coma in the year 2017, suddenly jerks. Mr. Young runs to her and starts to wail as the ECG machine goes flat. In the present, Young Xuan refuses Mr. Yang's offer to go back to the past to save Yunru. He becomes aggravated, and she explains that Yunru will be faced with a difficult decision to terminate herself if she goes back to the past. She gets back to her place, packs up her bags, and then moves into the apartment her look-alike once shared with Su-wai. She's able to figure out the place from the memories in her head, so she makes her way there. Still in the present, Su-wai meets with his look-alike Quan Sheng, who reveals that he is unable to save the one Su-wai loves from their past, and even if they find the way to the past, they can't change the things that happened in the past. Su-wai thinks that as long as he exists in that plane, Young Xuan won't survive because they both want to save the other person's life, even if it's at the expense of theirs. In the past, Chen Yunru and Young Xuan cried uncontrollably as they informed Su-wai and Quan Sheng that they couldn't change anything. Though on different planes of time, Chen Yunru and Young Xuan and Su-wai and Quan Sheng decide to make themselves happy by sticking to the look-alike of the one they love dearly. They decide to stay the same and relive every moment spent. Back to 12th August 2014, which is a month after the incident, Yunru comes to meet Quan Sheng at his residence. He thanks her for saving his life and reveals that he and Junji have been in search of her. He shows her the time drawing made by Lai Su-wai. Though she can't figure out the sequence of events or how to solve it, she notes them down in her diary. She contemplates disappearing from this world because she can no longer tell what's true or untrue as her memory gets more blurry. Quan Sheng assures her that a day will come when everything will fall into place. Yunru turns to take her leave, but accidentally drops some items on the floor. They both bend down to pick the items up when she sees a cassette and remembers that in her dream Yang Xuan went back to 2014 after listening to this particular cassette. Quan Sheng also recalls memories of the times he spent in his world with Su Wai after losing Yu Xuan and Yunru. He remembers how they used to love the cassette, and they would jump around and play all day. They decide to let go of their pasts and all the memories they hold as they toss the cassette into a fire and watch it burn, while the memories fade off as well. Back in 2017, Su Wai and Yu Xuan woke up to each other's faces. He smiles and plants a kiss on her lips as she cuddles around him. At work, she's on a video call with Su Wai lamenting that she has been forced to take the next flight back home when her colleague Na comes calling for her attention. Na drags her along for some minutes so she can distract young Xuan from the settings happening behind her. Suddenly, everyone comes out singing happy birthday to Yu Xuan. She blushes seeing her friend Kun Pu and her colleagues together. After making her birthday wish, she gets an even bigger surprise as Su Wai shows up with a ring behind her, proposing to her to be Mrs. Lai. Everyone cheers as she accepts his proposal, and the couple entangle themselves in a deep kiss. The story comes to an end with Mr. Yang finding love once again with one of his colleagues. They agree to go to a musical concert since they are both huge fans of the singer.